Solomon Reed lived from 1831 to 1910, and Euphrasie Hebert lived from 1833 to 1909. They are better known as Sol and Frasie. They were both born in Opelousas Prairie of St. Landry Parish. Solomon was the son of Samuel John Reed and Marie Fontenot, and Frasie was the daughter of Joseph Hebert Jr. and Devin Fontenot, all of Opelousas, Louisiana. Their mothers were sisters, which made them first cousins. This Reed family is probably a descendant of Thomas Reed of Ireland, born in 1690. At that time, the family name was spelled E-A instead of the double E's. It has been passed down that Thomas died in Ireland, and his widow wife, Dolly Letson, traveled to North America with her two sons, John and William, and three daughters. John lived in Maryland and married Eleanor Ross. It is unconfirmed that this is their son, John Jr., who married Unity West in Spanish New Iberia of Louisiana. And lastly, Samuel John married Mary Fontenot, which they lived their entire life near Bayou Chico in Opelousas. The Hebert research begins with Philippe Alfred Hebert of France, born in 1715, and he married Mary Lambert. The family traveled to the Americas around 1756 and settled in Pointe Coupee parish area. Their son, Francois, married Marie Anne Marcantel of Pointe Coupee. Their son, Joseph, married Emile Garnet in the Opelousas area. And then followed their son, Joseph Jr., married Devin Fontenot, where they continued to live in Opelousas. Sol and Frasie were married on May 26 in 1852 in Opelousas. They chose to begin building their family in that location. By 1856, Solomon was moving the family west when Frasie gave birth to their second child, Olin, and a stillborn twin. Their child was buried at the current Reed Cemetery located between Oakdale and Oberlin, or then called Hickory Flat. The Olin twin is the first gravesite in the Reed Cemetery, and Frasie would not travel any farther and leave her child. Therefore, Sol built their home near the gravesite, even though their goal was to move near the Calcasieu River. Sol provided for his family as a farmer and a stock trader throughout his life. His father, Samuel Reed, was a stock raiser also. In the 1860 census, Solomon reported still living in Hickory Flat area, and his occupation was a farmer, and valued his real estate at $600 and personal property of $2,000. Around 1864, Solomon discovered the body of infamous Jayhawker leader Ozame Carrier after his assassination during the last months of the Civil War. In 1870 census, Solomon's occupation was a farmer, and he reported a real estate value at $100 and personal property of $300, and had moved the family back to St. Landry Parish near Bayou Chico, next to Frasie's parents. But by the 1880 census, the family reported living in Hickory Flat again, near the Reed Cemetery. Neither one had attended formal school, but Solomon could read and write, while Frasie was only able to speak French and could not read and write. In the 1900 census, Sol was still farming, and he owned their farmhouse free of mortgage. Frasie reported that she was the mother to 14 children, and only 8 were living, of which 4 infants are undocumented. Devin married Pierre McGee. Devin gave birth to 16 children, including 3 sets of twins, and 3 of the children died at a very young age. Pierre, a farmer, died when 6 children were still living at home. She lived at the age of 68 years old. Olin married Onisia Saunier. They had 13 children and lost 1 as an infant. Olin was a laborer and a farmer and died at the age of 73. Their son Druce became a sheriff of Ellen Parish, and their daughter Sidonia was murdered by her brother-in-law over a family dispute. Hypolite married Dovina Vidrine. Dovina gave birth to 11 children, and they lost one child before the age of 7. Hypolite supported his family by farming, and he died at the age of 74 from a long-term illness. Clinton married Marie Saunier. They also had 11 children, and only one died as a young child. Clinton worked as a fire warden and lived to be 98 years old. Samuel Joseph married Emilia Vidrine, and after her death he married Emma LaFleur. Samuel had 4 children before he died at the age of 31 from a long-term illness. His wife continued to operate the mercantile after his death to support the family. Lenora married Joseph Vidrine. They had 8 children, and one son died at the age of 2. Joseph was a farmer and raised cattle. He died from pneumonia on the cattle trail, and Lenora had 7 children to feed at home. Lenora lived to the age of 95. Rene married Mary Florence LaFleur. They had 9 children before he was murdered during a robbery at the age of 38. Rene operated a meat market before his death, and later Florence was the operator of a restaurant and small grocery store in Oberlin. Their 15-year-old son, Alphen, was killed during a storm 4 years after Rene's murder. Octavia married Duclos Saunier. After his death, then married Max McGee. Octavia had 1 daughter from her first marriage and adopted 1 son. They supported their family through farming until Octavia died at the age of 78. Eves Oliver, or Y.O., married Clara McGee. They had 7 children, and 1 daughter died at a young age. Y.O. was educated and taught school before serving in several government positions until he became the first sheriff of the newly formed Allen Parish in 1913. He died at the age of 52 from a long-term illness. In 1928, the Lake Charles American Press referred to the Solomons family as the oldest and most highly respected families in Allen Parish. Also stated that he was a pioneer settler of Calcasieu Parish and settling near the Calcasieu River about 6 miles north of Oberlin. Solomon died at the age of 78 and Euphrasie died at the age of 76. They both rest in the Reed